Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, my Mandalorians, my Megalorians, and I think I see Captain Brutus trying to make his way in. I think we better make this quick. He looks pretty pissed. But hello one and all and welcome to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. Now, it's been a pretty big month for Star Wars Starfighter updates. It's been a couple of weeks at this point and we have had some other things to talk about, but near the start of the month we had some pretty big rumours and leaks from MakingStarWars.net. We found out some, but not all of the character names. We found out about lightsaber fights, a Jedi Academy, and the possibility of Rey. We don't know if Daisy Ridley's in the final thing, but she was part of early Starfighter conversations. But today, my friends, we have a very different kind of update. Because we've been so focused on the likes of Sean Levy, and we know that Ryan Gosling is playing a character called Cade, it's pretty easy to forget some of the other folks working on the film. Notably the writer Jonathan Tropper. In a new interview with The Playlist, he just revealed something pretty eyebrow-raising, but honestly, something which I think is a very good sign for the film. Something we had no idea about until today. So we know for a fact that Star Wars Starfighter is a standalone, even if it's going to set up episode 10, and even if there are plans to do more of these characters, which I assume there might be, Star Wars Starfighter in and of itself is a standalone. And with this in mind, Jonathan Tropper said that right from the word go, he and Sean Levy wanted this to be a reset. Their goal was to make this feel like a new hope. In other words, when Star Wars was just one movie, before The Empire Strikes Back, before Return of the Jedi, and before it was an established universe. He reveals that Starfighter is accessible to every kind of fan, those new to Star Wars and those familiar with it. It's an entry point that anyone can enjoy. Even if they do end up connecting this to the Simon Kinberg trilogy, Starfighter is self-contained. And I know this isn't necessarily what he meant, but he kind of sounds like those Star Wars fans who think it should have stopped with the first film. They might be a rare breed these days, but oh my goodness, do they exist. I actually have an uncle who's a New Hope purist. Even if they don't mind or even like The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they're the kind of people who say that Star Wars was at its best when it was, as Jonathan Tropper says, open-ended. A universe that everyone could dream about based on that one lone adventure of Luke Skywalker in episode 4. I'm not saying Jonathan is saying this, but it does remind me of fans who make that argument. For a lot of fans who saw Star Wars in theaters the first time it ever came out, there was a magic that, according to many, was never replicated. And for Jonathan Tropper, that's the kind of magic he wants to bring back. Tropper goes on to describe the movie as an attempt to recover the open-ended adventure of seeing the original Star Wars before decades of mythology accumulated around it. So again, going right back to the original Star Wars film and giving fans hope. That was a big one for George Lucas, and as Sir Alec Guinness once said,
a sort of wonderful freshness about it, a kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
Now here's the thing, I can see why some fans are going to be happy about this approach, but also why some might be disappointed. A huge positive about Starfighter being so open-ended and self-reliant means that the story's going to wrap up with a neat little bow, there's a solid structure around the film, say what you want about Sean Levy, but he does know how to do this very well, and it means that the audience will probably be satisfied with one focused vision. And Sean Levy's already promised us that there are going to be some familiar aspects of the Star Wars universe, some inspiration from Return of the Jedi in particular, but also some new elements, new worlds, new aliens, and in that sense, it's going to be a very unique Star Wars film. And that, in my book, is a very exciting prospect. I mean, heck, Cade's wife in the film is a 600-year-old bartender. But I do see why some fans are a bit more concerned. A lot of people are going to look at these comments and argue that this is the antithesis of what Star Wars needs in 2027, especially following the Mandalorian and Grogu. There's been a ton of criticism that, as far as we're concerned, this could change at Star Wars Celebration by the way, that Star Wars doesn't have an overarching 5-year plan. There was the rumour by Jeff Snyder about more Mandoverse projects, but there are lots of Star Wars fans who like the premise of Starfighter being set in the future, but instead of a standalone they want to see a long-term story focused on one time period, building on new characters. A new trilogy would be the perfect place for that. And for all we know, based on fan reception, based on the box office, Starfighter could still be setting up that trilogy. But for the moment, they don't want to overpromise. They're taking it one step at a time, and they're treating Starfighter as a standalone. And it's worth saying that we should be patient. We should give Tropper and Sean Levy a chance and see where they're going with this. And this approach is good, because let's just say it's a flop. I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's say Starfighter is awful. Let's say fans hate it. At least we can say, well, it was just a standalone. And in a really strange way, maybe they're learning lessons after the Ryan Johnson debacle. They greenlit his trilogy before The Last Jedi was even out. And now, a lot of fans are saying, well, we dodged a bullet. So it really is a wait-and-see situation. But personally, guys, I find Jonathan Tropper's words more reassuring than anything Sean Levy has said. Because a sentence that's been on the lips of so many fans, so many YouTubers, myself included, is that Star Wars needs to feel like an event again. And this approach does give it something of a chance. And Jonathan is right to say that for casual fans these days, Star Wars can be quite daunting. There are TV shows, novels, decades of lore, comics, video games, whereas with Starfighter, it's a fresh new start. It's a reset. Not a remake. Let me be crystal clear about that. I know decades down the line that might be inevitable, but in terms of Starfighter, it's a reset post episode 9. And speaking of the time period, my friends, moving on from the writer to the director, we have some new comments from Sean Levy himself. And in all fairness, there's not too much he can say about the plot without revealing too much. Keep in mind we might be a month away from the trailer at D23 Expo, but he does reveal some pretty important information. He explains that even though we're just a few years out from the sequel trilogy, the galaxy's in a very different state than what it was in the JJ movies and in Ryan's movie. It's a few years down the road, and he clarifies the movie is set half a dozen years after the rise of Skywalker. And when asked about Ryan Gosling, he says he won't say the kind of character that Cade is, but he says fans should be very excited about the combination of Ryan Gosling and Star Wars. And quote, Ryan is a one of one. He's a very unique kind of guy. It's also worth noting that both he and Jonathan have seen lots of the film, and they're both very excited for it. Jonathan Tropper says, quote, that sense of a swashbuckling adventure into new worlds. For us, that was really important. Going back to what we said earlier, my friends, there are no barriers to entry. You don't have to have seen any other Star Wars movies to step into Starfighter. And it's obvious that he thinks Star Wars fans shouldn't have to do the work. And he finishes with this. I think Sean has done an incredible job. I think Gosling's incredible. It's going to be a really long wait until this comes out, because I'm dying for people to see it. I certainly agree with him, it's going to be a very long wait, my friends, but this is some of the best news we've had for the film in a very long time. I, for one, am super pumped. And like I said, word on the street is that at D23 Expo, Ahsoka Season 2's trailer is going to be shown to those in the room. We might get some exclusive photos. They might show up on StarWars.com or on Twitter, but we are getting a public trailer for Starfighter. Fingers crossed. And you guys know, I will be right there to break it down, so make sure you're subscribed. And so finally, my dear friends, one final piece of news for Starfighter which kind of went under the radar. It's something of a wild rumor. There was originally a post that was a joke about this, but one alleged scooper, who, we don't really know their track record just yet, is claiming it's legit, and that is that Starfighter is Cade's last name. So just like we had Luke Starkiller for the original version of Luke, and then that became Luke Skywalker, Starfighter might also be a last name in the Star Wars universe. It does sound like a joke more than a legit suggestion, so huge grain of salt, but what I'm saying is I don't know if I believe it. But if you want to learn about how the Skywalker name came about, check out the video I posted yesterday, which should be on your screen now. And if you enjoyed this video, my friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.